about this roadblock band? Good, huh? Nice job, you guys. Very nice job. And now for the plug featuring Full Sail's own Jerry Waller. Thank you very much. Great job, you guys. Great job. What a wonderful evening to be here with old friends, new friends, all of us coming together to pay tribute to a legend. Some of us knew him, some of us were acquainted with him, but I think everybody in the room is here tonight because we greatly respect a man by the name of Les Paul, who did so much for so many, not just great guitar work and great musicianship and great songwriting and great recording, but also great technology innovation and so many things for our overall industry, bridging the gap between musicians and studios and all the things that go on in that world. So tonight is a great evening to take a moment and just say, thanks a lot, Les, for all that you did. And to do that, there's a lot of good people here tonight. Some of the things that'll happen from the stage tonight is some of us, maybe you are one of the many people that could come up tonight and have a few things to say about Les if you would so care to. I'm going to open with a few comments to follow Michael, if I may. And let me start by, I'll call for the slide, if I could, the photograph. There's a dear man by the name of Mr. Bruce Swedien, who most of you know as being a legendary recording artist and record producer for many years, working with Quincy and Dizzy Gillespie and just tons of incredible people for decades. Bruce wanted to be here tonight, but he was very proud to tell you that he's busy in a recording session this evening. He was booked, and he said that he was pretty thrilled that at his age, he's still busy. But he did ask me if I would please offer a few thoughts about Les. He said that he met Les on a number of occasions and thought him to be just such a genuine and kind human being with a good heart. And Bruce asked me to send this picture for tonight, showing Les helping him hold his belly in. If you could see the rest of that photo, Les is pushing hard on Bruce's generous belly there and trying to help him take care of business. So he was a fun-loving man. I would also say, just from personal experience, I got to know Les just a little bit. I would call it acquainted with him over many years of running in the same circles, whether it was an Audio Engineering Society convention or a NAMM show. And the thing that guy brought to every encounter was just a genuine smile, grinning ear to ear, and he just loved talking about anything uplifting, fun, and related to music or family. I was always impressed with just the genuine nature of his spirit. There'll be more coming from other folks tonight from the stage. Let me now bring Mr. Jeff Nolan up, who is the memorabilia curator, say that 10 times fast, for Hard Rock. Jeff, thanks for being here.
Right on. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming out. Celebrate Les. I'm going to say a few things about Les in sort of a general fashion. We have some wonderful folks coming up in a bit who can speak to the nuts and bolts of what Les did much more eloquently than I can. But I'm going to start with a quote from the great producer Bob Ezrin. If you are unfamiliar with who Bob is, go check your record collection. You will find him in the liner notes. Bob said, "Before any of us did anything, Les had already done everything. Without him, there would be no modern recording industry. He is truly the father of everyone who ever pushed a record button or picked up a guitar." Very true. Now, Les's career as an innovator and musician begins way back in the 20s, but I want to talk about 1941. In the lifetime of 1941 America, people's minds were on two growing wars, one in Europe and one in Asia. The Yankees found themselves playing the Dodgers in an all-New York World Series. A newfangled contraption called automatic transmission found its way into automobiles, and in Duluth, Minnesota, a baby boy named Robert Allen Zimmerman was born. Later, he changed his name to Bob Dylan. A quarter got you into the movies, or 6 tunes on a kaleidoscopic Wurlitzer jukebox. It was the height of the big band era and ballroom dancing. Top tunes of the day were Glenn Miller's Chattanooga Choo Choo, Sammy Kaye's Daddy, and the Ink Spots' I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire. You know all those, right? Setting the world of 1941 USA on fire, however, was an early-stage communications metamorphosis in the cocoon of the electric wire. Across the increasingly wired-up nation, natural sound was beginning to be sublimated by amplified sound. That is to say, there were people beginning to think more in terms of sound waves than just sound. No one understood this better, or more instinctively, than Lester William Pulfus, a.k.a. Rhubarb Red, a.k.a. Les Paul. Although he was born near the beginning of the 20th century, Mr. Paul's instincts belonged more to the end of it, to a far more voltaic medium is the message era. A natural musician, he was fascinated by the flow of electricity as by the flow of music. He would prove to be an American innovator who had an artistic feel for electric current that was as ingrained as Mark Twain's artistic feel for the Mississippi's current. In the early 30s, the up-and-coming professional guitarist began burning his energies on this central vision, a guitar that would produce undistorted electronic sounds. To quote Les, "What I wanted to do is not have two things vibrating. I wanted the string to vibrate and nothing else. I wanted the guitar to sustain longer than an acoustical box and have different sounds than an acoustical box." Mr. Paul's precocious perception was seeing that the presence of electric current changed the entire context of the source. The requirements were different. The acoustic guitar used hollowness to get vibrations. With electricity, the vibrations hurt more than helped. The sound would be purer if the body was non-vibrating, stable, solid. The guitar was not to be the sound producer, but the conveyor. Again, quoting Les, "I picked it up first with one half of a telephone, a magnet, and a coil. Put it under the strings. Then I used the phonograph. I just jabbed the needle into the top of the guitar." I love that. Think of how simple and elegant a solution that is. Think how much we take amplified instruments for granted. Observing that the hollowness of the instruments was interfering with the electronic sound, he realized the solid surface would serve better. "I knew what I needed was a guitar with no holes," Les said. "I chucked rags in it. I poured it full of plaster of Paris. I tried everything with the guitar to try to get it not to feedback and not sound like an acoustical box." He started tinkering in the old Epiphone guitar factory. On his Sundays at the facility, he took a 4-inch by 4-inch piece of wood and attached the sides of a cut-up guitar to it. There it was, a solid, non-vibrating guitar. The inventor guitarist had redesigned some old tools, wood and string, into a new instrument. As we all know, he dubbed it the log. Now, more than 60 years later, the solid body electric guitar has become the biggest all-American wooden cymbal since the baseball bat, or the log cabin. And like the log cabin, the instrument embodies a pioneering spirit that is enduring. And it was pioneered by Les Paul in 1941. Though the time was not quite right for Mr. Paul's vision, prescient as it might have been, in the big band era, the big bang instruments of choice were brass and wind. It was the age of swing, and Les Paul was cooking up an age of string. What's more, there was a general feeling that electronics would cheapen art, not deepen it. That the artistic would become mechanical. In terms of the guitar, that translated into a fear that the naturally sublime resonating wood would be reduced to electronically ridiculousness. And that easier access to playing the guitar, just plug it in, would water down the general quality of music. This predicament was a precursor to the fear and prejudice many have today in the current digital revolution. That electronically transmitted writing, easy internet access, and God forbid, digital music recording, somehow tarnishes the purity of expression. Les wrestled with these short-sighted arguments way back in the 40s, and I imagine it's a bit of a hot topic around here in 2009. Les's innovations with the techniques of sound recording are, of course, no less revolutionary. His groundbreaking inventions in the world of recording have changed the way we perceive music today. Some of the techniques he pioneered are close miking, overdubbing, phase shifting, personal favorite of mine, multi-tracking, and tape echo. Multi-track recording was, more or less, developed by and for Les Paul. These techniques forever changed the way music was recorded and experienced. Les is easily on par with inventors like Alexander Graham Bell, Thomas Edison, and the Wright brothers. He's the only individual with memberships in the Grammy Hall of Fame, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the National Inventors Hall of Fame, and the National Broadcasters Hall of Fame. Think about that. In fact, watching Les Paul play an electric solid body guitar or work in a modern studio was akin to watching Henry Ford drive a car, or Thomas Edison change a light bulb, or Alexander Graham Bell make a phone call. As everybody knows, Les played a weekly gig at New York's Iridium Club. That's where I, like so many others, was able to experience the man up close and personal. It was really an incredible experience. Les was a character. He was also quite the ladies' man. A lot of people don't talk about that when they talk about Les, but he liked the ladies. First time I saw him, he was 90 years old and absolutely amazing. Charming, funny, effortlessly virtuosic. The audiences that would watch him at the Iridium were wrought from all corners of the music world. Jazz buffs, rock fans, blues aficionados, pop music lovers, old and young, guitar devotees, recording nerds, male and female, rich, not so rich, unknown, known. Among the known patrons to regularly take in his show at Iridium were Paul McCartney, Keith Richards, Tony Bennett, Steve Miller. They'd sit and listen and look up at him like footnotes at the bottom of a page. When he finished the show, he'd step off the stage and head directly into the audience. He'd shake hands, pose for pictures, swap stories, and sign autographs until everyone in the place had been more or less pulverized by legend access. Sorry for that one. To reframe that picture of Les at the Iridium, in human terms, think about this. A 90-year-old man with debilitating arthritis in his hands, signing dozens of autographs after playing guitar for 90 minutes. It was extraordinary. Les's hands were like gnarled claws by this point. His mitts made Keith Richards' hands look downright dainty. And now he's gone, never to be forgotten. Les Paul had a career in music that lasted 81 years. May you all be so blessed. Please don't observe a moment of silence for Les Paul. Observe many moments of joyful noise and innovation out loud. Godspeed, Les Paul. You'll be missed. Thank you. I forgot to introduce my dear friend, Jeff DeHollander. Jeff is one of the finest pickers around. He's one of the partners over at Valve Train Amps, and he was working for Gibson in the factory back in the day in the 70s. So everybody please give it up for Mr. Jeff DeHollander.
Good evening, everybody. How are you? I'll try to be brief. My name is Jeff DeHollander. I'm 53 years old. I'm from Kalamazoo, Michigan. As you all know, the Gibson plant was in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And in fourth grade, it all started for me. We were having a hobby day. My hobby was collecting butterflies. That's the truth. But my friend Chuck Lombard's his name, he's doing life in prison right now, and that's no joke. He had this Les Paul guitar. And for all you, I think it's funny too, because he was a funny dude. Anyway, he had a Les Paul guitar that his dad bought, and he said they got it right from the factory. And I looked at the guitar, and I saw that guitar in that pink case. It was a 1959 Les Paul Special single cutaway cherry red. Find one of those, and you'll be sitting on a pile of cash. Anyway, I saw that guitar, and I forgot all about butterflies, and I just thought this was the greatest thing in the world. I had to see this. Well, let's speed up a few more years. Getting ready to graduate from high school, my girlfriend at the time, her name was Martha. She looked better than her name. She says, her mom says, why don't you go across the street and see Mr. Tom Fetters? He works for Gibson Guitar. Maybe you can get a job over there. You already play guitar. You've been playing for quite a while. And believe me, by this time I'm 18 years old, so I've found a slew of Gibson guitars by this time, and I've found some that are worth $500,000 for crying out loud. And so I thought the best thing for me to do instead of go to college and do anything worthwhile in my life is go work in a factory and put 4 years of wood shop to work. anyway, I went over there and spread all the lore that I knew about Gibson guitars to Mr. Tom Fetters, and it seems that I knew more than him. So he says, go see Lila Angel. These are all Gibson guitar Kalamazoo people. Lila Angel was one of the funniest ladies I ever met. She still had a beehive hairdo and cat-eye glasses when I went there in '74 to apply for this job. And she says, well, who do you know here? I says, well, I know Mr. Fetters, and I know Rem Wall, and I know, if you guys go look in any of the books, there's a great book by Gil Hembry, The Golden Years of Gibson Guitar. It talks about all these people I'm going to tell you about. Rem Wall, Rendell Wall. I said, I know all these guys. And I finally mentioned this one guy's name, and he had been doing some understudy work there. I said, I know Bill Lawrence, and she kind of takes those cat-eye glasses, looks over the top, and she goes, don't mention his name again, please. So I said, well, I really don't know him that well. So anyhow, she says, here's your deal. You get this real cool deal, and you're gonna start on the second shift. So that means you get a night shift premium. That means you make a little bit more money than the guys who are doing the same job on the day shift, which I thought was pretty special. But when I finally got into the job, it was the worst job that you could have in the plant. It was binding, and the reason I brought my guitar tonight is so I could show you what binding is. It's the white stripe. Hey, I hope I didn't wreck anything here. It's the white plastic around the top of the guitar. And it's the gluiest, nastiest, crappiest job you can have in the world. But I never missed a day, and I loved that job. It was the happiest day of my life. And I just, every day I'd come to work and I'd roam that plant looking for this, looking for that, talking to this guy, talking to that guy, and trying to find out all about the guitars that, I wanted to have, the Flying V and the Explorer and all the Les Paul models that you could possibly put in front of my face. And never did find them, they're scattered all over the world, of course. But knowing these people and being able to work with them has just made me the happiest guy on earth up until they said, this is your last day on the job. We all lost our jobs. They moved the plant to Nashville. I'm not going to get into all that crap, but I just wanted to let you know that it was the happiest time of my life. But I've always been a professional guitar player, and that's what makes me happy. I get to play with my friends. I got to play with Pat Travers last night over in New Smyrna. I don't get to do that all the time. I'm just a second-level guitar player around here. I've played on this stage a couple of times in some videos, but I've always had a good time playing the guitar. And so I brought this one for everybody to look at. And I think you should give Les Paul and this Les Paul a huge round of applause. And thank you very much.
Well, good evening, Full Sail University, and all of our guests. I am all that's left of what used to be Michael Reeves. I'm the director of sessions here at Full Sail. Thank you. Nice round of applause for the two Jeffs. Did a good job. I want to talk for just a couple of minutes here about the impact that Les Paul had on my corner of the world, on my industry, and I want to do that in a little more personal term. And in doing so, I want to invite you, if you have a story or an anecdote or a comment or just some thought that you'd like to say about Les or his impact and his work's impact on your life, please make your way up to the front of the stage, up here just to my left. If you just have a seat here on the edge of the stage, or just kind of hang out here for a minute, and then when I finish with this, we'll bring you up, and you can say whatever it is that's on your mind. As I said, I'm the director of sessions here at Full Sail, and you are the indirect beneficiary of time-release medication. No, they'll edit all this out later. It's okay. It's fine, really. Like a lot of you, I first heard of the name Les Paul from my guitar playing friends. I remember asking my parents, why are they so, enamored with these guitars named after this guy? And of course, my parents, being a little older than me, told me who Les was, and talked about his singing career and his partnership with Mary Ford, and that was that. I didn't think about it again. And I kept crossing paths with this man and his work as my life went forward, and my career began to evolve. Moved up to New York City, ran across my father's old quarter-inch open-reel TIAC, and discovered you could actually do something called sound-on-sound recording with it, and that was it for me. And so that got me to doing a little bit of investigating, did some research, found out, again, wow, here's this guy, Les Paul. Well, when we think about legends in our industry, in the music industry, in the recording industry, most people influenced by Les's work through the guitar. I mean, try to imagine for a minute all of your favorite records, all your favorite songs that you can think of, and then think about them without the advent of Les's work. For example, what would Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody be without the rich, layered vocals? What would the Sgt. Pepper's album have been without all the orchestration? The bottom line here is that the measure of this man's work, when we think about legends in our industry, we think about Eric Clapton. Somebody mentioned Paul McCartney, Stevie Wonder would come to mind. We think about legends behind the scenes. On my side of the world, you can think about people like Clive Davis or Tom Dowd or the legendary Bruce Swedien that Gary mentioned earlier. Roy Thomas Baker, Sir George Martin, these people come to mind. A lot of people don't really take the impact of the fact that this man did so much more on the technical side. So the personal side of my story brings me to the Iridium Jazz Club in New York City that Jeff was talking about, not that Jeff, the other Jeff, that he mentioned, where Les did 2 shows every Monday night for I don't know how many years. If anybody knows, holler it out. It had to have been more than 15. And I used to encourage, up until just recently, encourage all of my students, when they came through the course, if you're in New York, go to see this show. As I met Les briefly, very, very briefly, at an AES convention, I was invited by a friend of his to, why don't you come over to the show? My wife and I went over later that night, and I was sitting. If you've never been to the Iridium, it's a very small club. I don't think it's as large as this venue here. It's very intimate. And here's this guy. At the time, I think the last time that we saw Les, he would have been probably 87 or 88. And I'd come in to see him many, many times. And I just sat there and watched him, and I watched all the people around me. And it's much like this audience here. Everybody there just loved music so much, and he fed back on that. And I got to thinking about everything that I had done with my life and my career. And I thought about words that I used on a daily basis, like phase shifting, that Jeff mentioned earlier. Not that Jeff, but the other one. Multi-track, just the whole idea of multi-track, the words sound on sound, the ping pong effect. All of these things, and I got to thinking about all the different people that impacted. What would you need a big, large, solid-state logic console for if you didn't have a multi-track recorder to feed things into? What would you need a plant that would build those? Why would you need to employ all those people? Why would you need to build these machines? Why would you need to build all this special effects gear that was based on the techniques that Les found? And a lot of people don't know this about Les. He was a very humble man. Didn't ever really think that his work was that important. He was always just looking for a way to make things better. The idea of coming up with multi-track recording in the first place stemmed from his partnership with Mary Ford wanted to be able to have her sing harmony with herself. He had done work earlier with the Andrews Sisters and was quite enamored with the very tight harmony that the Andrews Sisters had, and thought, you know, if one person, these are sisters, but if one person could sing harmony with themselves, and that sort of launched him off on this whole path to find out how to do this. You know, selective synchronization, all these terms and stuff. I'm sitting here watching this guy, which, by the way, could absolutely shred on a guitar at, you know, nearly 90 years old. Wonderful, wonderful player. And I'm thinking about all these terms, and he was right when he said he comes out in the audience. And I finally got a chance to shake his hand, and I just looked at him in the eye and I said, thank you. And being typical Les Paul, and not having any idea who the devil I was or what I was talking about, he said, well, whatever it was my pleasure. And the bass player was standing right behind him, and he just leaned over to me and said, thank you for what? Did he play a song that you had asked him to play? And I said, no. I said, thank you for a career. Because without Les Paul, I wouldn't have had a career as a recording engineer. And subsequently, I don't know what I'd be teaching here at Full Sail. Film, perhaps. So the impact on our community, both as a recording entity and as an educational entity, is beyond words, because without his work, we stand on the shoulders of giants, and without his work, I don't know what I would have done. I probably would have gone on to law school and made my parents happier. But I wouldn't have had near the fun that I did. And so with that, I just want to say God bless you, Les, and thank you for everything once again. And I'd like to invite anybody else to come up and give their private testimonial, if they will, at this time.
Michael? When Mike introduced himself, he said, "What's left of me? What's left of you is the best of you, my friend." Excellent. I have a story to share, but it's not a personal story of mine. Yesterday at 5:30, I received a phone call, and it shook me. Someone had heard about this event, someone very special, and as much as they wanted to be here in person, they were unable to because of a prior engagement. I will let the audio serve as his words. All I can say is this was a phone call I received by a very close friend of Les Paul, Mr. Billy Muir, and I'll ask Ken if you could roll the audio for us.
My name is Billy Muir. I was born November 4th, 1915, and I've been in the business since I was about 12 years old. I was a studio guitar player in New York City for 40 years. I met Les Paul in the early 50s. I was playing guitar on staff at WNEW radio station, and he was at NBC. I would go over to his studio to hear him play, and he would come to my studio to hear me. At that time, I was working at home in my basement on a 4-track TIAC recording machine, overdubbing, and so on and so on. About this time, along came Les Paul with his 10-track machine, and for good measure, he threw in Mary Ford, and that was the end of my overdubbing venture. Of course, he had a huge hit in World Is Waiting to Sunrise, and we lost touch for a while as he went on the road, and I stayed in New York City. And I started recording my own albums for RCA Victor, MGM, and other companies. And I also played in such Broadway shows as Chicago, Hello Dolly, Damn Yankees, and Sugar Babies. I also played on the Arthur Godfrey radio show for 7 years, and I also did 2 years of the Lucky Strike Hit Parade. And as a sound engineering college, it might be interesting to you to know that just after Les's breakthrough, I received a call from RCA Victor Records to do a series of albums called Supersonic Guitars. There was no dubbing, only live musicians. I used 4 of the greatest guitar players in New York at the time, Tony Mottola, Bucky Pizzarelli, Al Caiola, and Al Casamente. Anyway, 2 years ago, my fiancée and I were in New York City, and we decided to go to the Iridium Room where Les Paul was performing. I left a note on his music stand stating, "Billy Muir is here." He came on stage, read the note, and shouted, "Who the hell is Billy Muir?" I didn't know how to react to this. In view of the fact that he had a great sense of humor, and sadly also had suffered a stroke recently, he then shouted, "Billy Muir, come on up here." He asked, as I got on the stage, "What do you do?" And I say, "I play guitar. Don't you remember me? I used to go by NBC to hear you play, and you used to come by WNEW to hear me play." Well, anyway, he said, "Grab that extra guitar and let's see what you can do." Then we proceeded to play 2 songs, and we wowed the audience. It was just incredible. On our way out of the Iridium room that night, a waiter came chasing after us, shouting on top of his voice, "Billy, Billy, Les Paul just remembered who you are." So we went backstage, talked old times, took pictures and autographs, and then left. Last year we went to New York City and decided to go to the Iridium again. This time it was a little different. He spied me in the audience and asked me up on stage. Unfortunately, there was no extra guitar on stage this time, so we bantered back and forth, and I sang a couple of songs. It was great fun for me. I was very saddened to hear of Les's passing. He was a genius. Bucky Pizzarelli, who is a very dear friend of mine and a very dear friend of Les, called me to reminisce about Les the other day. Bucky had been taking Les's place at the Iridium for the last 6 weeks since Les's health had been deteriorating. The Iridium's new policy will be to feature different performers. It will take a lot of them to fill Les Paul's shoes. We all miss him, but he leaves his music for all of us, and for me, fond personal memories. Thank you, and good night.
Would you join me in a standing ovation for Billy Muir? We're going to be sending him a copy of tonight's event, and I just want him to know how much we love him. Thank you, Billy. We have another gentleman that would love to share his experiences with respect to Les Paul.
Well, I wasn't planning on doing this, wasn't even planning on being here tonight, but thankfully Scott and Dana shot me an email and said you were doing this tribute to Les Paul, and just happened to be coming to Orlando and couldn't resist. My name is Brian Coviello, and I'm the district manager for Yamaha Commercial Audio, of which you have a console back there that we're putting this audio through today. Thank you very much, Full Sail. And also, I noticed you have some Meyer sound monitors over here on the floor. And why am I mentioning this? Because it leads up to the story of my experience with Les Paul. About 10 years ago, I've been in this industry for about 25 years, working for various manufacturers. Celestion, which makes guitar speakers, which a lot of people and guitar players are familiar with. And also, I went to Meyer Sound from there. And about 10 years ago, we got a call from the engineer over at the Iridium Jazz Club that Les was not very happy with the PA system in there. He was not very happy with what he was hearing. And they thought we could perhaps provide him with a system that would make him hear what he wanted to hear. So myself and John Manito, as one of our tech guys, we went in there. We checked the room out, and everything these guys have been talking about, Les Paul, the experiences, the size of the room, and whatever is true. Actually, the room was a postage stamp. I'm not even quite sure if it's any much bigger than this section right here, and then it has some wings that go off that way. It's a very odd-shaped room. It's a very difficult room, and there's not a lot of room in there for a big PA system. They almost don't need a PA system in there, but Les felt he needed to have something that was a little more natural in there. So we went in and we said, yeah, we think we can do the job. We put a couple of UPA 12s in there, hung them in. We also spent quite a bit of time simming the room, aiming, and some of you technoids who have had the Meyer training and know what sim is. It's a way to analyze a system and tweak it and fine-tune it. And they said, well, Les is coming in this afternoon. He wants to hear what you did. And Les came in. We were pretty proud. We thought we had it tweaked pretty well. Room was sounding pretty good, pretty natural. And he got up there and he said, well, let me see. And he grabbed his guitar and he started playing some notes. And he goes, did you hear that? We go, yeah, that sounds pretty good. He goes, no, did you hear that? Yeah. He said, No, you didn't hear that. Okay. He said, I'm talking about the harmonic. Did you hear that harmonic that I'm hearing up here? Well, I'm not quite really sure what you're hearing, Les, but it sounds pretty good. Sounds like a good guitar note. No, this is not right. We spent the next, I think it was 4 hours with him, going through every note that he wasn't hearing, that he wanted to hear, and every harmonic that he didn't hear until he heard it the way he wanted to hear it. And then he was happy. At least he told us he was happy. So he invited us to the show that night, and we're sitting in the back, and he gets on, he plays his introductory song. He played every Monday night at the Iridium, and he said to the audience, and he stopped, he says, well, we've got something new here tonight. We have a new PA system in here, and we have these technical gents sitting in the back that told me this is going to make me sound just like I want to sound, and you should hear me sounding. And he goes, I want you to listen and let me know if they passed the test. So we felt about this big at that point. You know, we felt pretty good when he introduced us, but then we're like, okay, now we're in the spotlight. So he played later that night, and of course then he asked again, what do you think? And, you know, much to our happiness, everybody clapped. So we felt pretty good we passed the Les Paul test. But that led to many other experiences of coming back to the Iridium when I was in that neck of the woods and did that territory on Monday nights when I would get in there to just make sure everything was okay and go up and ask Les, everything okay? Oh, yeah, everything's great, everything's doing well. And that led into some other events with him around New York City where he called me in to make sure he was sounding like he's supposed to be sounding. So I was pretty pleased to have that experience. But Les is a master. He's the reason why a lot of us play guitar today, or try to play guitar today. He was an innovator. He contributed so much to this industry that most of us don't know and take for granted. And he's one of the reasons why we have these beautiful looking guitars up here. And he will surely be missed. He played right up to his last days, and that was his life. And he gave back everything that he was given within his gift. And it was a pleasure to know him, work with him, and a true inspiration. And I'm very thankful that you had this event tonight and that I got a chance to kind of share this with you. Thank you very much.
So, how's everybody doing? Everybody's happy? So, I was just going to show up here and just kind of watch and say, hey, it's pretty good for me to hang out here. And then Jay Noble goes, hey, I heard you have a great story about Les. And I think I do because, you know, I met Les while working with a guy named Al DiMiola. He's some jazz guitar player. Some of you guys might know who he is, and some of you might not. Les Paul guy. But I was working with Al, and it's been in there like 3 years, and he was like, Hen, can you do me a favor? And my name's Henry, but Al never called me Hen because, little known fact, cover up your ears if you're too young, he could never yell, God damn it, Henry, fast enough. So he kept yelling, Hen, come out here and fix this. And I'd have to go out and fix stuff, and next thing you know, there I go. So I'm still friends with Al, even though I got dubbed the name Hen. So he comes downstairs one day and he goes, hey, Hen, will you do me a favor? And I'm like, yeah, all right, so I work for you, whatever you need. He goes, will you go pick up my friend? I'm like, all right, sure. Done that before. He goes, go in there and it's Les Paul. You don't mind going to pick him up? And I'm like, no. What'd you say? And he goes, it's Les Paul, like. And then he had told me that he had just played at his birthday party the night before. And I had seen him leave because I had lived with Al for like, I don't know, like 3 years at this time. And so I was living with Al, and Al comes down in a really nice suit, and he's like, Hen, I got to go to the city tonight. I'll see you. And I'm like, all right. And he doesn't even tell me. It's like, I'm his guitar tech and his studio manager. It's like, couldn't I go? But Nevertheless, I didn't go to that. And then he goes, so Hen, just go pick him up. And I'm like, all right, so where the hell does he live? He goes, I just go and call him. And I go, what do I say? And he goes, just go on there. There's a Rolodex. And he's old school. He's got the Rolodex. And I'm like, there it is. And I'm like, what do I call this guy? And I go, he answers. And I go, Mr. Paul? And he goes, yeah. Hey, who's this? And I told him who it is. And he's like, yeah, just come down here and make sure you come in the back, because if you ring the front doorbell, I won't answer. And I'm like, all right. So driving to his house. Don't believe it. So I go around. Now, back in the back of his house, you don't understand this either. Some of you will understand what I'm saying here. He had like a Studer 24-track machine outside by his back door. And I'm like, good God, what's that? And then I'm like, ding, ding, ding. And then the master himself opens the door, and it's Les. And I'm like, hey, how's it going? He's like, hey. And I'm like, what the hell are you going to do with that? He goes, I'm trying to decide whether or not I'm going to throw it away. And I go, don't worry. Like, Al, we have a whole bunch of stuff. We could come get that for you if you want. And I was going to come get that all by myself. But that's the God's honest truth. That never happened, because I'm not going to be that way. And if I did, I wouldn't tell everyone sitting here. So true story, we go in, and like I was in his house, and like, I tell a story to a lot of people, and like, what? And so I go in, and there's like RCA Ribbon 77 mics sitting around, and Les Pauls I've never seen. And I'm like, what is that? And he's like, oh, this is. I'm like, how many of these things you got here? And he goes, I might have 200 in the house. And I'm like, golly. Because I love guitars. I mean, that's the end all be all. So, like it or not, Les goes, you ready? And I'm like, all right. So we get in, we go back to Al's house. And so I'm like freaking out, because, I work for Al D, and now all of a sudden, like, Al DiMeo and Les Paul's going to sit and hang out. And so we're playing tracks. He's doing a new record. So we were all sitting there laughing and joking. And Les is going, hey, you got any popcorn? And Al goes, Hen, we got popcorn? I'm like, yeah, I'll go get popcorn. So little known fact, Les loves popcorn, or he did, God bless him. But I made popcorn for the master. We brought it down, and we sat back, and then by then it was like, hey, let's go grab some guitars. So I would go pull out all the Gibsons that he had. And so I played rhythm while Les played a lead, which is the best thing I ever can say. So I don't really have to play guitar with anyone else. I don't mean that in a bad way, and this is the kicker. It's the kicker. I played guitar with Les, and then Al DiMeo watched, which I thought that was a little bit better. No, there you go. That's the end all be all. No lie. It was a super good day. It lasted for about seemed like an eternity, because I can remember every second of it. It was probably an 8-9 hour day. I picked him up in the afternoon, and I was driving him back to his house in Mawa at like 3 or 4 in the morning. So I'm driving there. It's Les Paul in the car. So I'm driving, and his cell phone rings, and he answers it, and he starts talking. He's, yeah, and you hear him just talking. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, hey, turn on. And like he was doing a radio interview from the car saying, hey, I'm getting taken up to my house by my friend. And I'm like, he said, my friend. And I'd take him all the way home. And this is the little known joke. I never geek out on anybody as far as like asking for an autograph, because virtually I always said, well, I like to do what I do, so I'll be around these people. I don't care. And a long time ago, a lot of really cool people I like said, hey, don't ever take a picture, you'll be back. And I'm like, oh, okay, I kind of understand what that means. So I had a picture from the birthday party of Al playing with Les. And I'm like, I don't want to do it. So I said, hey, Les, will you do me a favor and sign this picture? He goes, yeah. And I show him the picture, and it's a horrible picture. And he goes, is this the best picture you have? I go, it's the only picture I got. He goes, there you go. And he flips it over, and he signs it. And he goes, here you go. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. And that was my day with Les Paul. It was a good day.
Come on, we got time for more people. Come on up. We're going to get this guy up here now. What's your name?
I'm Ryan O'Hara.
Ryan. Here's Ryan, everybody. Nice round of applause.
Thank you. My name's Ryan, like I just said, and I'm a current student here at Full Sail and really enjoying it. Yeah. I just wanted to share a quick story. I was really into baseball when I was younger. I mean, Not like I'm old or anything now, but when I was growing up, I was really into baseball, and I played throughout the year, every year. And through that time, my dad was always playing classic rock or blues or that kind of music through the speakers. We were always rocking out on the way to the games, getting pumped up and everything. And you know, I thought I was really passionate about baseball, and I really liked it. And then I watched Led Zeppelin once, and I saw Jimmy Page up there with Les Paul, and he was just so into his craft. I mean, it was amazing. This guy was just so into what he was doing. And he had this beautiful piece of wood in his hand, and he was just making these crazy sounds out of it and beating it with a bow and all this kind of stuff. And I was just like, wow, that's incredible, you know? So I started reading up on some of these bands that I really liked, and somehow each one brought me back to this instrument called a Les Paul, or just some kind of multi-track recordings and that kind of stuff. And I had no idea what it was all about. And but then I started reading up on Les Paul, and I was like, I gotta find out who this guy is, since he's pretty much everywhere. And like we heard earlier, he had an amazing career. I mean, almost 80 years of just doing this stuff in the music industry, and it just blew my mind. This guy was so dedicated and so passionate about what he did. It was just, I never seen anything like it. And so I started listening more to the music, and I started liking it a lot more, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And then my dad, one day, he took me to a music shop, and I was like, all right, I'll go, I guess, why not? And I got in there, and there was just a wall of Les Pauls, and my mouth dropped. I just never seen anything so beautiful before, and I didn't know why. I was just like, wow, the way the light glistened off of them, and then the signature on it, I was just like, it's incredible. And this guy was like, here, try one out. And I freaked out, because I don't know what I'm doing with it. And I sat down, and I just strummed it, and it just felt so right, and it felt cool, it felt good, and it was just an amazing feeling. And from that moment on, I really fell in love with music, and that passion that he had, I started getting, and I was like, wow, this happy-go-lucky guy working in the music industry for 80 years and still going at the time was so happy and everything because he really loved what he was doing. So I started playing guitar more. I started getting into it more. I started listening to more music and actually really hearing everything that was going on and started understanding what multi-track recording was all about. And it just blew my mind how amazing this guy was. And he was actually the first one. I never really met the guy, unfortunately. I would love to just even shake his hand. But he was the first guy that really showed me that you could do what you love and be passionate about it, and you would never work a day in your life. And you would just keep going with it and just, I don't know, it really blew my mind. I just really want to thank Les Paul for showing me what true love and passion was all about. So thank you, Les Paul.
And that's part of what I get to do now. Guys like Ryan are students here, and this isn't work, this is larceny. All right, who's next? Come on up. Another disciple. Absolutely. The mic is yours.
Hi there. I'm Brendan, and I'm a student at Full Sail as well. I'm in the entertainment business program. I'm an international student from South Africa, and I started school at Full Sail in September last year. And the reason I say this, I started school at 29th September, and I saw Les Paul live in the Iridium on September 22nd. Me and my dad flew in to New York on that Sunday. I bought a Gibson Les Paul that same day. The next day, I went to the Iridium. My dad got acquainted with the manager of the Iridium Jazz Club, so he set up a personal meeting for me and my dad with Les Paul. Now, Les Paul plays two shows, an 8 p.m. show and a 10 p.m. show, and he arrives at the Iridium at about 4 p.m. So the manager organized me and my dad to meet him when he arrives at 4. So my family owns a wine farm, so we brought Les Paul some wine from our farm. And the manager brings Les Paul in, this 93-year-old guy. You know, here's the legend right in front of me, and you're starstruck. You don't really know what to say to him. He's just amazing. And I remember we sat down with him at the restaurant on the corner of Broadway and 51st Street, and we sat there for about half an hour. You know, here we were sitting with Les Paul on the corner of 51 and Broadway in Times Square, talking to him for half an hour. And I remember his crew just like, Paul, we need to go do sound check. And he said, no, I'm talking to this African boy. I've never met a white person from Africa. And that was, yeah. And he just asked us about Africa and how it is over there and what it's like. And, he didn't even know his guitars are sold in South Africa. In South Africa, it's a bit different. If a Gibson Les Paul in South Africa is like the holy grail. I mean, with our currency, a Gibson Les Paul is about the same price as a car over there. So for me to own a signed Les Paul now is just amazing. And to start school, meeting him prior to starting school was just the best thing I could ever ask for. When you're around Les Paul, you get this feeling of, he kind of motivates you in this weird way. Here's this 93-year-old guy sitting on stage, playing with 2 fingers, still working. The rest of his hand has got arthritis. And he just motivates you to do what you love and care for people around you. And it's true, what the first speaker said earlier, he was a ladies' man. That is true. He made 25-year-olds blush in the Iridium that night. I mean, that wants to be done. He's a real ladies' man and a jokester all around. But like I said, starting school, to meet him prior to starting school was the best motivation I could get. And the first month in IMA, we learned about Les Paul, and it was just how I could share my stories with the rest of the class. It was pretty amazing, and he will always be my hero. Thank you.
All right, it is my great honor now to bring up our next guest. I'd like to welcome from Guitar Center, please say hello to Mickey Greer.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, hold on. I have to set this up real quick first here. So, for those of you who know me, I'm always moving around and never stop, right? So, this is just to build the intrigue really quick. Like there's not enough guitars on the stage. I'm just going to leave this here for a second. So I wanted to thank you all for being here. Apparently I'm the de facto historian, so please let us not forget that this evening we have a raffle going on courtesy of Gibson for Les Paul. If you haven't purchased your raffle tickets, please do so while I'm talking. It'll make it that much more interesting. And also grab some Red Bull, it'll keep you awake. So let's see if this little clicky thing works here. Nice. Okay, I want to thank you all for being here tonight, especially to Gary Jones and Scott Dansby and the entire Full Sail University staff for spearheading the event, especially to Michael Wagner, Tiffany Dragon of Gibson Guitars, who could not be here this evening, and Music Cares and the Grammy Foundation. Again, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Mickey, and I am the store manager for Guitar Center in Winter Park, and it is my job to help people make music. I would not have a job, nor would most of us have these wonderful jobs and careers that we have today were it not for a man named Lester Polfus for his contributions to the industry. I thank you, Les, and I celebrate your life with everyone in this room tonight. What we have up here is, I'm going to talk quickly about his technical achievements. This man has several patents under his name. Here we have one for the combined bridge and tailpiece for a stringed instrument. Here we have another one that he worked on with Ted McCarty. Here's another one for electrical musical instrument for an innovative design of pickups. And another one, a method of electrically reproducing music and improved electrical pickups for practicing the same for a pickup more specifically designed for drums. There's a funny article I read. I read it online while I was preparing this. It said, Les Paul's mom invented rock and roll. So how does that make sense? Well, consider this. He built his first crystal radio at age 9. When he was 10 years old, he devised a harmonica holder out of a coat hanger. Soon afterwards, he made his first amplified guitar by opening the back of a Sears acoustic model and inserting behind the strings the pickup from a dismantled Victrola. In his teens, he took the magnet and coils out of a telephone receiver and put them under the guitar and attached that to a piece of railroad iron he found and connected it to his mother's radio. If it hadn't been for her infinite patience, we probably wouldn't have rock and roll today. Les Paul said in 1991, honestly, I never strove to be an Edison. The only reason I invented these things was because I didn't have them, and neither did anyone else. I had no choice, really. There he is working. Imagine if you put yourself back in the recording era when Les Paul started out. The first recording sessions up through 1950s. It's a single disc lathe using acetate in one room and a couple of engineers looking at it with all the musicians in the other room and a single carbon or ribbon mic set up, and you prayed that the take would be great so you wouldn't have to do it again and throw away the old acetate. One mic, everybody hit it and quit it. That's the world that Les Paul changed. This is the first home studio. Already in '46, he developed a unique sound working with self-made disc lathe that he made out of a truck flywheel and trying out delay reverbs and echoes on the song Lover, which was released by Capitol Records in 1948. This became a hit much later on, but he needed more. So how did it happen? After World War II, he meets this guy by the name of Colonel Ranger, who showed him a tape recorder which he had located in a German military electronics lab. Les was playing with Bing Crosby at the time, and he informed Bing of the machine. Now, since Bing really wanted to play golf and not spend any time in the recording sessions, Bing had him make 50. Well, Ranger Tone couldn't make the 50, so he went to Ampex, and that led us to the Ampex 200. This is the first multi-track recorder that we made here in the U.S. So he's thinking around, he's on the road, and he goes, well, what could I do with that? He says, so what he figures out is he calls Ampex, and he tells Ampex, hey, dude, well, probably didn't use dude, but he says, I burnt out one of the heads, can you bring it to me? Now, that's a monophonic machine. So he takes that other head, he mounts it right in front of the other, and at that moment, you have sound on sound recording. That was the genesis. Imagine all the techniques that he developed over the 50 years. Oh, by the way, that machine that you see on the right, that was the first 8-track. There's another picture of two guys trying to carry it out of the Gibson Museum. It's two guys in a dolly. In February 2005, Les Paul is inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame because he helped invent multi-track recording, tape echo, tape delay, layering, close mic recording, cut and paste. Oh, everything we see there, for those of you who are still in the industry today, all those cut and paste and all those techniques is something that he developed back in 1948 through 1960. So for all of you engineers out there, help keep his spirit alive. Keep tinkering, keep finding new ways to solve problems. You never know that one of you might be the next inductee into the Inventors Hall of Fame. Every man leaves a legacy. For an itinerant tinkerer like Les Paul, who made things to do things, what better way to honor him than to hear what some of the best players in his industry had to say. My main guitar is a Les Paul. A lot of the great guitar players played a Les Paul, so I identified with the sound of it. It is an extension of what I am trying to communicate as a musician. By Slash of Guns N' Roses. Les Paul's an old friend of mine. He gave me this special white Les Paul. He wound the pickups himself for my birthday, first time I met him. I play everything from heavy metal to blues to jazz on it. He just hit it right on the head when he designed the Les Paul. I like it better than most girlfriends. The godfather of rock and roll, I call him. Without him, none of us would have a job. That's Richie Sambora of Bon Jovi. I don't think there's a guitar player who wasn't influenced by Les. When our lead guitar player, Noki Edwards, first had Les's stuff back in the day, Noki didn't know it was speeded up. So that's the way he learned how to play it, and that's when he started his fast fingers going. Les was the first to do many things. He just blew us away when we heard his music. Don Wilson of the Ventures. And the list goes on and on and on. What Les was going after was I was interested in proving that a vibration-free top was the way to go. I even built a guitar out of a railroad tie to prove it. I wanted to amplify pure string vibration without the resonance of the wood getting involved in the sound. So, with the good graces of the Epiphone president at the time, Paul used the Epiphone plant and machinery in 1941 to bring his vision to fruition. He affectionately dubbed the guitar the log. And what he says about it, at another time he made it, it was nothing but a 2x4 plank with strings stretched on it and a pickup. He brought it to he goes, I took it to the club and it wasn't received very well. They just didn't respond. As soon as I put the wings on it and fastened two sides so it looked like a guitar, then they applauded. That's when I realized that many people hear with their eyes. So what many people don't know is that Les Paul first submitted his design in 1945 to Gibson, and they told him to take a hike. It was a broomstick with a pickup, is what they said. Fast forward to when he has his own radio show and is about to be on TV, and they avidly court him, even driving deep into the Pennsylvania mountains to deliver the first model to the newlyweds, Les Paul and Mary Ford. Les played it, and his eyes lighted up. He signed on as the namesake of Gibson's first electric solid body with exclusive design privileges. Working closely with Les Paul, Gibson forged a relationship that would change popular culture forever. So what is a Les Paul? I have a beautiful array of them right there. 1952, the first one comes out. It's the Les Paul Gold Top. It was the first solid body electric. It featured a gold top nitrocellulose lacquer finish, no serial number, a trapeze tailpiece, Cluson tuners, and a pair of P90 pickups, and retailed for $210. And he wanted them gold so they would look expensive. 1953, they actually start putting serial numbers on them, and they take off the trapeze tailpiece and change it for a new combined wraparound tailpiece. Helps with some of the palm muting issues. They also introduced the Les Paul Jr. They had, in 1955, they have the Les Paul Special. And they also have the Les Paul Jr. TV Yellow in 1955. They wanted that because white glares on TV, so they introduced the yellow so that you could see through to the grain. Helps prevent the glare on TV, and it looks white on TV. 1956, they have the Les Paul Jr. 3/4. 1957 is when they introduce the humbucker. The first time the humbucker appears is in 1957. Some of the most sought-after pickups. The pickups alone are worth quite a bundle. You put all this natural evolution from 1952 through to 1957, and then 1958 comes out, which leads us to the most famous and sought-after guitars anywhere. It's the perfect guitar, the Les Paul Sunburst from 58 to 59. It was replaced with a Cherry Sunburst. That's the 52. Go on to the next one. Right there. That's actually out of Steve Lukather's collection. He doesn't know I have the photo. They went through some minor changes during that period, but this is a guitar that everybody wants. The guitars went in and out of vogue for a little while. They actually dropped the Les Paul line from 61 through to 66 due to some personal issues that Les was having. They came back in the 60s. In the 68, they introduced the Deluxe. They also introduced in 78 the Les Paul Pro Deluxe. The Studio is introduced in 1983, which is all the things in a Les Paul that makes the sound, but without as much ornamentation. Modern Les Pauls. From 86, they start playing around with some different things. You also have Les Paul's recording guitar that comes out in that era. 2007, Gibson releases the Robot Guitar, a guitar that can tune itself. 2009, the Darkfire. As they say, guitar claims that this guitar will produce every imaginable guitar sound. This is a natural evolution, and it's tinkering. It carries on the spirit of Les Paul to do things that make sound and make the guitar just sound right. It's the evolution of perfection. This is his spirit living through in Gibson guitars today. So, I'll tell you just 10-second anecdote about my experience with Les Paul. I was actually in New York for the 80s and the 90s. And I saw Les not at the Iridium, but at a far dankier and smaller nightclub called Fat Tuesdays back in '92. And I remember looking at the back of the Village Voice one day and I'm going, wait a minute, that's Les Paul. He's still alive? I got to go see this. So I get a chance to go down and, you know, I'm running clubs, so I kind of know the guy at the door, so I'm able to get in. And I watch, and I am just amazed that here is the man that gave birth. And at that time, I was playing guitar, I was doing a little lead singing, you know, I wanted to be a front man, I was young and sexy. And I decided to stop being a front man at that point because there's no chance I was ever going to come anywhere near that mastery. However, he did inspire me to continue on with my career in engineering, just by watching him, just by listening to him, by knowing that this is a man that this is what happens when you throw your passion and devotion into your entire life's work. This is something that hopefully one day I'll be able to contribute. I don't know how, but everyone in this room, if you have a passion, please follow it. This is keeping his spirit and his life alive. So we're preparing for this event, and 2 days ago, or a couple of days ago, on Saturday, I'm in the office, and this guy comes in, and you know, it's busy, and I'm at the store, and my guys pull me out of the office, and they say, hey, Mickey, you got to see this. It's like, what are you talking about? I said, I'm busy. No. You have to see this. So I come out, and there's a young man who's standing there, and I'm saying, and I take a look at what he's got, and he says, I go, you know what you got there? He goes, why, yes, I do. So I asked him to tell him this story, and then I asked him if he would come here this evening. So I'm very happy to be able to introduce to you a young man who came all the way from the coast to bring this, and that's what's in the box. So I'm going to introduce this gentleman. His name is J.J. Cooper. Why don't you come on up here real quick?
How y'all doing? You know, I grew up around music my whole life. My dad I'm from West Virginia originally, and that's where my dad was from. And he was into bluegrass, country, rock and roll, everything. And, you know, he was very poor growing up out in the country. And he had this job at a filling station. You know, they're not gas stations there, they're filling stations. So he was working, you know, extra hours doing everything he could to save up enough money because every country boy in America wanted a Gibson Les Paul. That was his dream to own. And finally one day he had the money, and the local hardware, there was no music stores anywhere around there. You got your guitars from a hardware store. And that's what he did. He took all of his savings and went down there, and they had ordered him one and had it shipped into West Virginia just for him. And, you know, we traveled all over when I was young to music festivals all over. Music's always been a part of my life. And when I was 12, he passed away, a month before my 13th birthday. And he had pretty much put the order in to the whole family that nobody was to have this guitar but me because I was the music lover in the family. And it's an honor and a privilege to own this instrument. I've known the name Les Paul since I could talk. I knew who Les Paul was. And it just, you know, this is a really nice event, and you know, I brought this guitar in. I hope y'all enjoy seeing it. There's not very many like it. And that's all I can say. Thank you very much. It's a 1956 gold top, completely original, and it's a beautiful, beautiful instrument. And it's, like I said, it's priceless to me. You know, it means the world to me. So I'm glad y'all can appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Just like he said, this is a All original 1956 Les Paul Gold Top. Original P90 pickups in it. It's got the original tailpiece. I've actually been lucky enough to be able to play it. I would say conservatively this thing is worth $75,000 as you're looking at it right there. So go ahead, for those of you who like guitars, take a picture. I told you, Larry, that you would love this gold top. With that, I would like to bring up a legend in his own right. A guitar legend who has played the world over. And I would actually like to get him up to say a few words. Mr. Boom Boom himself, Mr. Pat Travers.
All right. This 56 brings back a lot of memories. I was really surprised when it came out. I didn't think it would affect me that much. When I was about 5 or 6, I'm from Canada originally. We lived in northern Ontario in a little town named North Bay. And when I was about 5 or 6, I'm pretty sure it was around Christmas time, and my mother's brother, my Uncle Henry, we call him my Uncle Hank, he is and still is a guitar player. He's almost 80, and he still plays sessions and gigs. And he came over, and he had a 54 gold top Les Paul with a Bigsby Tails piece on it and a little combo amp. And I just, you know, seeing this gold thing, that was just incredible. And then, you know, playing it. So that's the first time I ever saw an electric guitar at all in person, and seeing a Les Paul. So eventually we moved from there to Ottawa, Ontario, where my Uncle Hank lived and had a music store called the Blue Note on Bank Street. And, you know, I wanted to play, and I wanted to be a guitarist, and I worked at his shop on Saturdays, and then started my own band. But I didn't have my own electric guitar. I used to borrow them. This was ridiculous. My uncle owned a music store, and I didn't have my own guitar. So finally, when it was just around my 15th birthday in April, and I talked my mother into borrowing some money from the bank, getting a loan, and co-signing on a loan, and I got a 1968 gold top, just like that, with P90s, and that was my first electric guitar when I was 15. So that was pretty cool, and unfortunately, about a year later, I was already starting to play in bars, and we were playing at a bar in Hull, Quebec, and it was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was in the winter, and it was cold, and I wanted to go, and went out to the car, and the other guys didn't follow, and I leaned my case up, which was my uncle's 1954 case, by the way. I bought the guitar, but I couldn't afford a case. He let me use his case, and it got stolen. I went back in, came out 5 minutes later, and it was gone. I was so upset. They took me home to my mommy, and about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I knocked on the door, and my mom, sweetie, what's wrong? I'm like, I can't talk, and I really did break down and cry, and so I said, right, I'm never going to let another guitar get in my heart. I'm just not going to stop. I've been beating the crap out of them ever since, but. And I've seen a lot of really nice Les Pauls, and been lucky enough to play. Well, Ted Nugent, when we were doing a show with Ted, and I only had one guitar with me, my Les Paul, my double cutaway, which was made in Kalamazoo, where Jeff DeHollander worked, and I broke a string, and Ted's tech said, all I got's this 59 Les Paul, don't tell him you're using it. And I went, okay. And I broke a string on that, or something happened. I forget what. Anyway, Ted had it. He says, oh, yeah, it was in my basement. I didn't even know I had it. So he's got like this 59 Les Paul that's, you know, probably worth $250,000. And then not too long ago, we saw Cheap Trick here in town, and Ricky Nelson, he loves to come across the stage with every one of his Les Pauls and go, "You want it? You know, you want it?" He's got about $2 million worth of guitars in the first 5 songs that he plays. But they are just, I don't know, there's something about them. Don't ever drop them, because they'll break. Which everybody knows. My double cutaway broke there 5 times. So anyway, but they're wonderful guitars. I think some people find them a little, you know, if you really want to tear into it, you know, you could put as much muscle as you want into it, and it actually does get louder, and it's unlike some other guitars, you know, they make Fenders, you know, they have a limit, but Les Paul is the most powerful guitar ever made, definitely. And can I play this thing for a little bit? That would be great. Can I use this? Okay, well, yeah, we want to have something. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. It was a real pleasure to play this guitar.
Thank you, guys.
That was awesome. Pat, that was awesome, brother. Good grief. So, a few things I failed to mention when we started, which I am remiss about. First, I love Greg Reich, so I needed to be right up front and let you know that. And secondly, when some of us at Full Sail came up with the notion of this, we called Mickey at Guitar Center and we said, Mickey, we got this little idea brewing here, and Mickey was all over it, loved it, just jumped right in. And we could not have had this event tonight without the Guitar Center and Mickey's wonderful support. Also, Gibson, the guitar we're raffling tonight was mentioned earlier on the stage. This guitar was donated by Gibson. And the raffle, as you know, all the money, every cent, is going to a charity called Music Cares. Right, Jay Noble? Yes, there you are. Thank you. So it's going to a good cause, and it's going to something I think Les would have very much appreciated, that we're doing something for other musicians that are in need. So that's a really good thought, too. Yes, sir. Raffling the gold top. JJ, are we raffling the gold top? That's between you and this man right here, brother. I'm not getting in the middle of that. Sweet guitar, JJ. Just amazing. Did I mention that was awesome, Pat? Good grief. Wow.
That is smoke.
And thank you, Mickey and Guitar Center. Thank you, Michael, representing Gibson. Thank you so much. Okay, I think it's time to raffle off a guitar. Yes, good people? All right. So the guitar is backstage. It's coming right out. Okay. And I also, Jay, can I present the check now? Is it okay? Come on up with the check, please. Thanks to your generosity and all the raffle tickets that were purchased to buy this guitar, you raised a sum of $3,190. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. And this will, yeah, you can prop it up right here if you want. This check will be presented to Music Cares Foundation in Les Paul's name, which is even better. Okay, and now we're going to draw for this beautiful guitar. I think. Can we have Pat and the other guests join? Yeah, Pat, come on up. Absolutely. Pat and Jeff, come on up here, brothers. Yeah, we'll have you guys near here for photos. Here comes the tickets. Pat, you'll do the honors for us. Jeff, you'll help him out there, good brother.
Got it. Okay. Uh-oh. Ticket.
Should be on the back, I think.
Is that the number there? Okay. Yeah. I got it. Here, you hold the mic.
You got it, brother.
01596. Oh, yeah, we got a name. Okay. Oh, okay, that's Debbie Barnes. Debbie Barnes. All right, Debbie Barnes.
But it's not Debbie Barnes.
Oh.
But I sold her the raffle ticket.
Oh, okay. So.
She works in my department. I don't think she's here tonight.
Oh, so you're here to collect it on behalf.
Well, I screened him.
Take it and run, sister. Run.
Take it and run.
Change your name.
Thank you, Pat. Well, please congratulate Debbie on our behalf, other Debbie.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. Yeah. Guys, would you join her for a photograph around Debbie here? You're representing. Come on, sister. Get with it. Stick with it. Work it. Great. I'm going to do this right here, guys. Let me lean this up against us, please. Perfect. All right. Tell us when you're done, Berto. I'm all done. Take your time. Good? Fine? Okay. We're still on there? All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. So as we clean up here, get tidied up a little bit. Again, thanks for everybody for coming out tonight. Thanks for your generous donations. Very wonderful cause. The things you had to say about Les Paul, I know he's smiling about up in heaven, and I know his family greatly appreciates all of your attendance tonight and the great stuff that went on. Great music, guys. Roadblock, thank you. Magnificent job. Mickey, Guitar Center, you're a good, good man. Thank you so much. Thanks very much. It's good to share your town, brother. Good to share your town. Okay, if you recall, bye, Pat. See you, brother. Okay, as you recall, we're going to take a slight intermission now. Jay, you correct me if I'm doing anything wrong. We're going to take a slight intermission, get set up for the documentary film Chasing Sound, which is all about Les Paul. So let's take 5, and we'll get everything tidied up and ready to go. Thanks, guys.